All right, we bought these books, we've got them home, and before we list them, we're going to actually show you how we set up our software and kind of what our optimal workflow looks like. But before we do that, we're going to talk through the conditioning. So setting the conditions is something that Amazon actually sets the rules on the condition of the books. We're going to only be selling used books. We're not going to sell new. We're not going to sell like new. And the reason for that is Amazon does put some restrictions on some books in new and like new condition, partly because of the publishers, partly because that's just what they do. So in general, we're going to list everything in one of three conditions. We're going to list in acceptable, good, or very good. We're not going to do the collectible condition, even if it's signed, simply because they don't show up in the regular search options. And so they're very hard to find. We've not had much success selling when we list as collectible. So what we're going to do is, we're not going to bore you with all the details, but we do want to give you some examples, and we'll have these links down below. Amazon's got several how-to articles, and one of them you can see here is selling textbooks. And the important thing is that the ISBN has to match the product listing on Amazon. If it doesn't do that, you're doing something incorrect. That means, and they also talk through what you can and can't sell. And we've done a really in-depth video on instructor's editions and complimentary copies, and we'll put that in the links down below as well. But in general, make sure that if it's a softcover book, it shows up as softcover. If it's hardcover, it shows up as hard. And make sure that the ISBN matches what's on Amazon. They also have some stuff on international media products. You can read that as well. Again, you have to match the ISBN. So if it's an international edition of a textbook, you can't sell it as a US edition. And again, we've got some of this stuff more described in some other videos that we'll post in the notes down below. So these are the conditions. Again, we're not going to sell in new and like new, simply because that just raises a little more suspicion. If I haven't had any issues selling new, I personally don't. I do know people that do. We're going to teach you to be conservative. If you want to try and list new or like new, that's up to you, but we're going to err on the side of being conservative and safe. If you bought these books from a thrift store, for example, and Amazon says, hey, prove that they're new, you're not going to have an invoice from a publisher saying that it's brand new. So we just try and stay away from that. So again, that leaves us with three options: very good, good, and acceptable. You can read Amazon's notes here, and that's important to look at, but we're just going to walk you through a little bit what we're looking for. In general, if the book is very square, so when we grab a book, we're not going to spend a ton of time on conditioning. I don't think it's that important. Good versus very good, I don't know that people pay that much more. It may not be that important at the end of the day. Acceptable versus good, I do think that matters a little bit. With acceptable, people are going to be looking at the condition notes, or they're worried that it's damaged. And so if we can list in good, that's great. We're also not going to spend a lot of time trying to clean up the books or erase things from it, or try and fix the pages or get rid of odors. It's a used book. So we're just going to try, if there's money to be made, we're going to list it. The effort and the time spent to take a book from good to very good, or even like new, I don't think is worth it at the end of the day. So we're not going to teach that to you. We're going to teach you how to go find more books, build an efficient system, and get them listed. So when it comes to condition, again, the thrift store that we got them from has a price tag in the corner. Probably the easiest way to fix that, you could get a pencil and an eraser. I'm simply going to take a blank address label, tear that in half, and cover up that price point. And at this point, it's not a big deal. So it's covered. A little sticker in the book's not really going to take away from it. So I'm looking real quickly on the outside. This is it's in great shape. First off, it's very square. I don't see any dog-eared pages. I quickly rifle through it, and even though it's a book with notes, no one's written in it, pretty much an unread copy. So in that case, that's my conditioning. I'm going to say very good. Grab the next book. It's got a dust jacket. That's good. Again, we've got the price here. And again, I'm just going to take a sticker and cover that up best I can and just move on. So I've got that. I do notice on the back it's a little rippled. Looks like a little water damage just on the dust jacket. And I'm going to quickly flip through it. Again, actually I do see a little bit of highlighting. So if we have highlighting, it can't be very good. So it's going to be good at best. Again, it's pretty square. The only real detractor is it has a tiny bit of highlighting and a little bit of a ripple right there. So we're just going to call that good. You could downgrade if you want to err on the side of being conservative. You can always go down a condition and try and wow the customers. I know some bigger sellers that literally list everything in good condition and just leave it at that. And if it's completely unreadable, they just don't list it. And they have just as good a feedback as most other people. So again, I think people probably spend too much time worried about the condition. You want to follow Amazon's rules. You want to make sure you're taking care of the customer. But at the end of the day, the things that are going to drive more value are finding more books and pricing them correctly and getting them out the door. So again, just a few more. Again, I quickly look at the outside. I don't see any dog ears. The cover's very minor dings here and there. It's got a little bit of a scuff back here. I'm quickly running through it. It's going to be good. You could possibly get away with very good. When in doubt, again, you're probably going to go down a little bit. I'm just going to say good. And again, before we list these, I'm going to put half a sticker on that, cover the price. This book's a little bit rougher around the edges. You can see it's kind of flared out on the edges. I don't know the technical term for that. And as we flip through it, no markings. The pages are a little yellowed, just a little brown. So again, I'm not going to get away with very good. This is good still. It's not really damaged. Here's a former library book. You can sell those, no problem there. And you'll see some other stickers and some markings there, and they put their stamp on it. As we flip through it, everything's fine. We got an old book cover or a bookmark. Sometimes you'll find money, so it is worth flipping through. Anytime you've got a former library book, the best you're going to go is good. If nothing else is marked up, if the book's in great shape, which this is, it's got a little bit of wear, but it's a good shape for a used book. So again, former library books are going to be good or acceptable. I usually start out at good unless there's a little bit of writing or something else that would detract from it. So I'm going to call that good, and I make sure I put in the description former library book because that does matter to some people. Again, I'm looking at the outside, a little bit of flaring on the corners. You can see that it's been used. Flip through it. I've really got nothing going on, so that's going to be good. So you can see over time, this is actually going to be a pretty quick process. You shouldn't spend too much time. Again, this book has a little bit of rippling. It doesn't look like water, but it's just been used and scuffed, and the page doesn't even lay flat. So because of that, it's a little bit rough on the edges too. Maybe a little bit of water damage actually. You can see the pages kind of fluffed up a little bit. Anytime you see that, it's going to be acceptable. Dust jacket's in great shape. It's got a former stamp from a former owner. That's not a big deal. Again, you're probably not going to want to say very good because you got notes in it. But in this case, again, it's going to be good. We're actually going to make the condition call as we list, and we'll show you what we do. We actually do the condition. We're going to list it and put a price on it and sticker it for FBA. Again, we're going to send all this into Amazon. We're going to do that all in one step, but we just want to help before we jump into that, just have a rough idea. So again, want to make sure the ISBN matches, and the software will help us do that. 2, everything's going to be good, acceptable, or very good, and that's pretty much straightforward. So let's jump into showing you the workflow.